Welcome to East of Eden Readings. I'm your Chief Consultant, Reverend Rock, and tonight we're going to discuss the acronym for SNAKEs. Socialist, Nationalist of American Caucus of Employees. SNAKEs. Let me begin by addressing that I do not under any circumstance advocate for murder of any kind, past or present, period. I personally feel that guns in particular rank number one when referring to the most retarded invention man has ever created next to war. I overstand that our personal religious beliefs, the color of our skin, and sexual preference is personal and has absolutely nothing to do with our collective needs as a true successful modern unified society. Every man for himself is the capitalist aphorism. This ideology breeds selfishness, competitiveness, greed, envy, and all of the ailments of a corrupt system, from each according to ability to each according to need, is the socialist motto. It thrives on a rational ideal, manifesting a more compassionate nation. Social classes is the adversary of an efficient civilization. It is imperative that we do away with such primitive governing. It is due time for an intellectual economic system that all citizens are simultaneously the benefactors and beneficiaries, completely abolishing homelessness and poverty forever. Why is this day and age, with all its intellectuals, sophistication, and high technology, isn't poverty extinct? Haven't we not yet evolved as a species that there still exists homelessness? We should be embarrassed as a so-called nation of employees. Why can't Shaquana or Megan get to experience the elations of places like Disneyland or Universal Studios, as does Mary or Ophelia? Why is $40 billion sent to aid in a war overseas if there exists a food shortage domestically? Why is $40 billion sent to aid in a war overseas and the descendants of the American slave trade have not yet received compensation for the 400 years of free labor that catapulted this capitalist system unto its zenith? Why hasn't the United Nations intervened on the behalf of the dark-skinned, kidnapped descendants of the slave trade being systematically murdered by proverbial law enforcement officers in America? What kind of society doesn't have a legitimate process in which eliminating pregnant women to work after her first trimester out of necessity? These are questions that need to be addressed. These are inquiries that need to be confronted. Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, and the like are obvious enemies of the state. There is no excuse to why one man should have $80 billion as a personal net worth in a civil society. It's unethical and crude. How are we one nation under God when we still aren't mature enough to look past people's personal preferences? Again, I have no personal vendetta against any religious denomination or any particular race, for I know that the physical realm that we so blindly rely on is nothing but an illusion created between those with power and those without, and that we are all under one dynamics of the collective unconscious, and the distinction syndrome is a conditioned behavior purposely induced by the billionaire class to maintain their positions of power while we remain divided and conquered. The velvet glove covers an ironclad fist. The official seal of the Socialist Nationalist of American Caucus Employees, also known for the acronym moniker as SNAKEs, the K in caucus in this instance is to denote distinction between the Republican caucus, as in the legislative body of a particular government, but simply a collective group of individuals with a common political ideology. Socialism, noun, a political and economic theory of social organization which advocates that the means of production, distribution, and exchange should be owned or regulated by the community as a whole. Motto: from each according to ability, to each according to need. Contrast: capitalism, noun, an economic and political system in which a country's trade and industry are controlled by private ownerships for profit rather than by the state. An era of free market capitalism. Synonyms: private enterprise, free enterprise, private ownership, privatized industries, the free market, individualisms, and laissez-faire. Individualism, noun, the habit or principles of being independent and self-reliant. Quote, a culture that celebrates individualism and wealth. End quote. The capitalist model, every man for himself. The feathered serpent, also known as the plumed serpent, was the indigenous symbol for the Americas, currently known as America, before global colonization. Amaru is Incan and literally means serpent. The feathered serpent was known to the Mayans as Quetzalcoatl and represents the union of the earth and the sky. As above, so below. In mythology of the alien civilization of South America, the Amaruco, the Amurca, or Qatari is a mythical serpent or dragon, most associated with the Tiahuanaca and Incan empires. In Incan mythology, Amaruca is a huge double-headed serpent that dwells underground at the bottom of lakes and rivers. The serpent was the universal ancient sigil for the earth. That was very disrespectful. They must know I was saying this. I have no problem reiterating for you. You're excused. In mythology of the alien civilization of South America, the Amaruca, or Qatari, is a mythical serpent or dragon, most associated with the Tiwanaku and Inca empires. In Incan mythology, Amaruca is a huge double-headed serpent that dwells underground at the bottom of lakes and rivers. The serpent was the universal ancient sigil for the earth, or body, as opposed to the emblem of an eagle, which denotes the spirit or the sky. The unification of the serpent and the eagle alludes to the spiritual animated embodied. Quetzalcoatl, the plumed serpent, is an obvious representation of that dynamic. The spirit animated embodied. Temples were erected all over the Americas in honor of the proverbial dragon. In Gnosticism, a serpent biting its tail symbolized eternity and the soul of the world. And that is this is the presentation of the new political party, the snakes, as opposed to the Democrats or the Republicans. No longer do we have to decide between the lesser of two evils. Now we have another option. The snakes, the Socialist party. And as you can see, obviously, that is coming from a place from compassion. I'm the Reverend Rock.